Hello and welcome. This is Drew Vision IT Consulting. It is August 2023. I am thrilled that you're here today. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Um, we're going to talk about why app rats always fail, but we're going to do a technical deep dive today. I'm really going to get super propeller head, super nerdy, super geeky. Hopefully, not too many bad jokes today. But we're really going to look into some of those cultural, political, and technical reasons why app rats always fail. To begin with, it's generally semantics. People ask for an app rat when they mean they want a portfolio rationalization, not an application rationalization. They want a portfolio rationalization. Or they want a roadmap for every single application in their enterprise, which candidly is just impossible. So today we're going to talk about just a few of those reasons why with a bit of a show and tell. Stay tuned. Let's dive right in. Okay, so what are we looking at? We are looking at just a very crude, very small enterprise architecture for a CPQ system, a configure price quote. What does that mean? Let's say I'm just Joe user and I want to buy a car online. Let's say, I don't know, we're Matthew McConaughey. Awesome. And so we're going to log into our computer, we're going to go online, and we're going to do a bunch of technical crap that lets me configure and buy a car or a truck, maybe a plane, whatever. Configure price quote. It can be done for servers, it can be done for cars, it can be done in a huge variety of industries. It exists anytime you want to customize something. That's what configure means. I want to customize it. I want it red instead of blue. I want it big instead of small, whatever the case may be. Well, there's a technical way to accomplish that. So we're looking at Draw.io here on the screen, and we're just going to take a little journey. Matthew McConaughey is going to buy a car. He's going to get a web page from Akamai, and that gives basically the presentation layer stuff. It looks pretty. It's a basic page. And on that page is going to be a nice little button that says log in. Okay, awesome. That login call is going to go all the way through to, I don't know, Ford, Boeing, Mack trucks, whoever. It doesn't matter, right? And we're going to type it in and we're going to successfully log in. I'm not going to go into a whole explanation of how IAM works, this identity access management. There's a variety of tools. I'm not going to get into MFA, multi-factor authentication. That's easy enough. We can talk about those if you guys prefer in a separate video. So what I've done is now I'm talking to actual servers at ABC, configure a truck, car, plane company, and we're going to get a new web page, right? And on this, we're going to see, let's just say it's a car, it's a Mustang, right? And I can pick from EcoBoost Mustangs. I can get a run of the mill GT. I can get a Dark Horse Mustang. I can still get, at least for now, a Shelby GT 500. I've got a number of different things that I can choose from. Well, those are all make, Ford, model, Mustang, and then everything else is a customization from there. So what happens? All right, so I've logged in now. I'm secure, and now I'm able to talk to the configure server. Okay, so up here, these Apache web servers in this example, they could be IAS, they could be WebLogic, whatever. There's a whole number of things to present a web page to a user, but the thinking is whether it's Python, Jython, Java, usually Java, whatever the case may be, the thinking happens somewhere else. So in this case, we'll call our application server in a three-tier model. We'll just say that our configure server is basically our application server. In reality, it probably would be just a full-on middleman, whether it's a WebSphere or uh, WebLogic, who cares, right? Whatever. And that particular server would run a bunch of programming logic to go ask other servers for the bits and pieces, or in the case of containerization, the particular services that it needs to execute what it's doing on the page. But in this very, very crude, rudimentary example, of CPQ, let's look at our configure server. What is our configure server going to do? Well, it's going to pull up a list of features. How does that web page know that there's essentially, what do we say, 4 different Mustang types that you can go get, right? And so it's going to have a list of these. And the user, Matthew McConaughey, is going to click on one of these types. And based on that click, it's going to change everything else that he can click. And each of those things has its own price and it has its own schedule or availability date on how quickly these particular features can be gotten, right? And so let's say in one particular part number model, feature assembly group variation, right? What's an assembly group? Well, let's say I pick the Dark Horse Mustang and I want to upgrade the audio package. Well, that's going to be an assembly group. What does that mean? Well, it's multiple parts all together as part of one, I'll call it package, right? So I've got the Bose head unit, right? And I've got the Bose amplifier that sits underneath the driver's seat or in the trunk. It's going to come with an upgraded subwoofer and tweeters and speakers. And it's actually going to be 8 speakers instead of 5, as just an example. Okay, so that's an equipment group. But because I picked that equipment group, I can't pick other equipment groups. So what does that mean? Well, that's a rule. That rule says this equipment group does not work with that other equipment group. It replaces it. So that's what a rules engine is. A rules engine, whether it's declarative or constraints, declarative rule is just simply a one-to-one relationship between two things, or even a series of things. As an example, red steering wheel matches red trim, matches red seats, matches red door inserts. That's declarative rules. Constraints rules would say the color of the steering wheel and the floorboards and the trim and the seats and the door inserts all have to match, right? Conceptually, they're very, very different, and they strongly impact what tools you can actually pick from. And that's a religious debate, right? The type of rules you use has a huge impact on engineers, on sales and marketing, later on manufacturing. And so in your app rationalization, you've got to consider what rules are we going to be using, right? Just ask one thing that can complicate what type of apprat you're able to do. Another political religious type thing that can come into play. How often do you want to discount certain parts, right? Do I want to discount them on the fly in real time as parts demand changes or maybe increase the prices? So who in finance is working with sales to determine what our price margin should be for different features and parts and prices, right? What about availability, right? Is procurement literally feeding into, or are they able to feed into um, the system when parts are going to be available? What if how quickly I can get my Mustang Dark Horse is a factor of when I'm going to buy it? Well, in my scheduling system, if I'm not tied into my core ERP through which, I've got my finance, procurement, uh, accounting, etc., um, if I'm not able to talk to that and know when parts are going to be generally available, I can't adequately quote to Matthew McConaughey when he's going to get his Mustang Dark Horse. And if that's the case, well, is my ERP the problem in this case? Is it giving me bad dates? Do I need to upgrade the procurement components of, I don't know, maybe I'm using really old school Oracle NetSuite, or maybe I'm just OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I'm in the cloud. I'm running all the components to be able to do it. Maybe I'm on premise and I'm on, I don't know, PeopleSoft 8.9 or 9.2, right? I got a really old system and I can't tell what these parts prices are going to be or when they're going to come, right? Maybe I need to tackle that first. But if you're talking core ERP, all the rest of this is predicated on this decision over here. If I can't know what this is, I certainly can't choose what this is because they're all intertwined, they're all linked, right? If I'm going to negotiate a huge volume discount with Oracle on my databases and Oracle, what is it, 18, 19, whatever it is now, um, I'm going to get a sweet deal on it, then that means I'm not going to use, when I rip and replace these custom applications over here, I'm not going to use Microsoft SQL Server. I'm going to use Oracle. Why? I got a better discount on it. But this is a religious decision that the entire company, hell, the board of directors, has to make because it dictates all of these things, right? Is my cost master actually in my core ERP or not? Maybe it's old. Maybe this is a really, really old system and it's kept separate. Or maybe it's a clone of what's there. That way it's exposed to these other applications that need them, right? Um, am I logging all of Matthew's interactions on this website in Salesforce.com, right? Am I using a particular CRM to log those interactions to see where he's spending his time? Am I going to save his quote somewhere and then be able to provide a report on it? I can have reporting views, right? Maybe I'm using Power BI. Maybe I'm using a variety of different um, business warehousing tools to be able to see all of the things that Matthew is doing. Am I going to pump that into a forecasting system? Right. So when we talk about AppRat, people get lost in the woods. I could end up just on my configure server. I could end up spending 2 years just to rip and replace this. Right. Why is it so hard? I've got to know every upstream, downstream integration. Am I doing batch jobs? Am I doing JDBC, ODBC calls to these different servers? Right. Am I getting dirty reads? Right. Are these clean reads? What what are all of the technologies in play? Right. Let's say all of a sudden, oh, we used to do um, just a batch file from Kelly Blue Book to be able to offer our Kelly Blue Book trade-in value in the website, right? Matthew McConaughey doesn't know what his old Civic is worth. So we used to get a batch feed. We'd load it in there and we'd say, here's your Kelly Blue Book estimate. Well, maybe in the future, you want to go just do an API call to Kelly. They certainly offer it. So I want to have this module in my web page as a service. Well, except your configure server doesn't support TLS 2.0. Now what? It's infinitely complicated. And the point of all this is there are religious, political, and technical reasons why app rats fail. And when people think they're going to spend $500,000, $1 million to rationalize and get a roadmap for all 6, 7, 800 applications in their portfolio, it is not possible. You will not get that. If that's what you're looking for, you probably want a portfolio rationalization, which we'll cover in a separate video. But as you can see, just from this brief little tour, Matthew McConaughey's Ford Mustang Dark Horse buying experience, how quickly complicated this can get. So if you have any suggestions on how to improve this kind of video, this is the first one of this kind. We can get into some more enterprise architecture in a variety of use cases and scenarios. But for this one, I wanted to focus on app rats, why they often fail, and encourage everyone to do either a broad brush portfolio rationalization or a targeted application assessment. And with that, if you like this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks from Drew Vision.